Good evening. I wanted to call to order the special call board meeting of the Richland School District 2 Board of Trustees for July 28th, 2020. We are now at item 2.1, approval of agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Agostini,
I move to approve tonight's agenda for the July 28th, 2020 special called board meeting.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Holmes. Any discussion? Seeing none, we would like to call the vote. And you can use your devices, and if you're unable to, you can use your hand. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mrs. Agostini. Any opposed? All right.
Aye. I'm not getting a prompt for some reason, so I'm voting in the affirmative as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey.
The vote is 7-0.
All right, thank you. Now we will move to item 3.1 on the agenda, which is public participation. It will be delivered by Ms. Libby Roof.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The public participation forum opened on Friday, July 24th, when the notice was sent out to the media for this meeting. It closed at 1 p.m. today. We received 15 submissions. Tonight, we will be sharing 8 of them. As we stated in the form, the comments read at this meeting, July 28th meeting, will be limited to only those that pertain to the one agenda item, voting on the revised 2020-2021 calendar. Any other comments will be read at the regularly scheduled meeting on August 11th. Following the practice of public participation during our in-person meetings, we will not answer questions asked in the comments during public participation. Our first comment comes from Caitlin Jones. Comment is, if the school's start date is pushed back to August 31st, how will that affect the pay start dates for teachers newly employed for the 2020-2021 school year? The next form submitted was by Amanda Helms. If we start off e-learning, what's the point of changing the start date? Please remember when making changes to start and end dates for the next school year that many families had to reschedule vacation plans for next year. Denise Owens. Please vote for Calendar D as it provides our military families as well as others to travel at Thanksgiving and winter break, as well as ending the school year on June 11th, 2021. Gus Philpott. I suggest that you switch the weeks of elementary and middle school leap days with the teacher work days. Providing the leap days immediately prior to the start of school should increase retention. The State Department of Education created a nearly impossible and very expensive task of identifying students in need of extra instruction and then trying to get them into the school building. Expenses of separation, communication, instruction, meals, and transportation are probably imposed on the district as an unfunded mandate. This should be protested so that it does not recur in the future. Samantha Rainwater. Dear Richland 2 Board of Trustees, thank you for your commitment to ensuring the health and safety of all stakeholders is prioritized. As we consider the start date for schools and determine which options are best for each family, time is getting down to the wire for teachers to begin preparing for the upcoming year. While August 31st does give teachers more time to plan, there are still many details upon which are awaiting in order to fully design our curriculum. Much of the issue with online learning in the spring was the short amount of time in which teachers were expected to design and employ their modified plans. In order for e-learning to be successful, teachers need as much information as quickly as possible in order to create dynamic plans that fit the requirements for each school. When will each school have fleshed out details about the schedules, grading, and attendance policies, and other important decisions? Will there be deadlines for this information to be provided to employees? Are these school-based decisions, or will the guidance come from the district? Thank you again for being reasonable and flexible during this time and for your leadership. Laura Price. As a teacher in Richland 2, I want to thank the district personnel and our school board for your thoughtful, conscientious response to the coronavirus pandemic. Our district is a community leader in decision-making that follows scientific guidelines, current data, and educational best practices in providing an education to our students. I have studied the calendar options for next year and strongly support the recommended calendar, Calendar D. While I agree it is prudent and necessary to push back the beginning of school, I appreciate the adjustments in Calendar D that do not push the end of school back further. Personally, my family has a long extended family trip beginning June 12th, 2021, that would be impacted by Calendar A. I believe many other families in our district may also have summer plans already in place that would be disrupted if the end date is pushed back much further. Additionally, I feel Calendar C removes too many single-day holidays throughout the year while still being in school through Wednesday, the last week of the year. Thank you for your continued hard work on the behalf of Richland 2 students, families, and employees as we navigate this unprecedented situation. Demetrius King. I ask that you vote for calendar option A. Calendar A provides 2 full weeks of break at Christmas and 3 days at Thanksgiving. No other calendar provides this. In addition, calendar A gives teachers a break on March 12th. All other calendars do not offer teachers a break from January 18th to April 5th, with calendar C not offering student a break from January 22nd to April 2nd. While asking teachers to teach for such a long period of time without a break is never optimal, it is especially discouraged during the pandemic. The lack of breaks for teachers in the calendar recommended by the committee, Calendar D, will cause many teachers to take a mental health day. Due to a predicted shortage of both teachers and substitutes and the possible inability to sprinkle the kids of absent teachers to other classrooms because of the need to keep class size small during COVID-19, I recommend that we adopt a calendar that builds in the most amount of breaks for both teachers and students. Gary Dennis. Hello, I am Gary Dennis, a Richland 2 parent, local business owner, and candidate for an elected office. I am concerned about the adoption of the new school year calendar. This is the first public reading of the calendar change for the 2020-2021 school year and should be considered as a first reading tonight. Policy BGD, Board Policy Process Board Review Administrative Rules, issued 9/17 states, each proposed policy, including proposals to amend policy, will require 2 readings at regular meetings or work sessions of the board. The formal adoption of the policies will be recorded in the minutes of the board. South Carolina Code 1976, as amended Section 59-1990-12, states, establish the annual calendar, have the authority to establish an annual school calendar for students, faculty, and staff to include starting dates, ending dates, holidays, makeup days, in-service days, and professional development days. This, to me, makes each new calendar a policy each and every year. My concern is we are setting a new way of doing business by not having 2 readings before voting on a change of policy. I believe the calendar is considered policy as to when schools start, work days, and the end of the school year, as I have outlined from above from South Carolina Code 1976 as amended Section 59-1990-12. This is a concern as a parent and citizen of Richland School District 2. I understand we are in a national crisis, but we must maintain our rules, ordinance, policies, and laws set in place. I understand we can't make everyone happy, but at the same time, we must ensure that we don't stray away from the normal rules and adopted practices. I understand the process very well as I serve as a Richland County Planning Commissioner, but we must allow the public the rights outlined in procedures and all changes that have to be made. As elected officials, you must do what is right and not change the way things should be done. We must maintain how we do business, or that could open up a lane for citizens to bring legal injunctions against the school board that can cost taxpayers. So how can you as elected school board members vote on a calendar change without having 2 required readings? Thank you for taking time to listen to my concern. And Mr. Chair, that concludes the public participation comments for tonight.
Thank you. And now we will move to item 4.1, action, new business action requested, the approval of the 2020-2021 school year calendar. Dr. Davis.
I need to unmute myself. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, to our viewing community as well, to our Richland 2 family. Dr. John Arner and his team of data analysis created numerous drafts of the revised 2020-2021 school year calendar. Each revised draft includes 5 leap days, which are required for all elementary and middle schools to host prior to the first day of school for students. LEAP is an acronym for Learn, Evaluate, Analyze, and Prepare, and is required by the South Carolina Department of Education for assessment activities, instruction, social emotional preparation, and et cetera. These days are in addition to the 5 beginning of year teacher work days, in-service days that precede the first day for students. All school districts in South Carolina were urged to move their start date for students back to September the 8th. While our revised calendar for the 2020-2021 reflects a later start date than the original school year calendar, it is proposed that LEAP takes place the week of August 17th for pre-K to 8 students. The beginning of the school year teacher work days and / in-service days will take place the week of August 24th, and the first instructional day for students will be August the 31st. With all things considered, it was a goal to preserve the number of days for as many of the original school breaks as possible, while also finding a way for the school year on a date which does not go too far beyond the first full week of June. At each level, parents' input was sought from parents who would likely respond quickly given the time constraints. So at the elementary level, we reached out to about 8 schools to submit to between 5 and 7 parents to get some input as relates to the calendars. At the middle school, we did the exact same thing, but we reached out to all middle and high schools. Additionally, elementary schools and centers, middle schools and high schools were asked to send this information out to about between 5 and 7 certified and classified staff for their input as well. There were 232 survey responses were received, with there being a representative cross-section of input from all levels and all portions of our school district. The results were, first place, calendar D had 98 votes, 54 votes from staff and 44 votes from parents. Coming in second was calendar A with 83 total votes, with 47 from staff and 36 from parents. The third place was calendar C with 29 votes, 17 from staff and 12 from parents. And calendar B came in 4th place with 22 votes, 10 from staff and 12 from parents. District administrations are recommending the board approve the revised calendar tonight. Policy IC states that the board must approve proposed calendars. It does not state that the approval requires 2 readings. As you know, our practice when we are presenting a calendar for the first time is to bring it to the board for 2 readings. In fact, our calendars in 2021 calendars did receive 2 readings when they were originally approved. However, the policy does not require that. And it's something that has been routinely a practice that we're asking because of time constraints and the urgency in which we need to get the policy approved, that we suspend the practice of having 2 readings, but we're not bound by policy to do that. Policy BG/BGC does not state that 2 readings are required for, BGD does not state that 2 readings are required for the adoption and amendment of policies. However, policy BG/BGD does state that the two readings are required for the adoption and amendment of policies. However, the approval of a calendar is not the approval of a policy. Part of the board's and will not become a part of the board's official policy manual. There are many other approval actions that the board takes that are not considered policy. For example, the board approves the district strategic plan, but it only receives the strategic plan and there's only 1 vote for that strategic plan, but it's required to approve the strategic plan. And so I submit to you for your consideration and your vote, the recommendation of district administration for the approval of policy calendar D. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Are there any comments or questions from any board members?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning and then Mrs. Agostini.
I'm sorry, I believe we have to have a motion and a second before we can have discussion on it.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion from any board member with regard to the proposed change in our calendar, a revised calendar for 2020-21.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey,
I move that we approve calendar option D.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mrs. Agostini. Now, is there any discussion? Mrs. Agostini?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Davis, I'm not sure who can answer this, but can you tell us a little bit more about the leap days and where they'll take place, and what actually is going to happen? Will we be bringing the students back to the school for evaluations? Has that been determined? Oh, he's muted.
I'm sorry. We're required by the State Department of Education to bring the students into the school for the evaluation or for LEAP. The requirement is not really geared towards students, but in order to receive the money from the State Department of Education, your teachers have to be in the buildings with students. So
Okay.
the attachment of the LEAP money is for us to pay the teachers to work with the students. So when we evaluate, when we bring them into the school for the purpose of learning, evaluating, analyzing, and preparation. So we are looking at the process, and we have submitted in the plan to the State Department of Education that we will bring students in the building in small groups during those 5 days prior to the start of school for the purpose of meeting the standards of LEAP. We will use some of that for learning, some time for evaluation, analyzing, and preparing, but we're not required to have them the entire day and have everyone in school. The requirement, in my understanding, is that we send out an invitation and invite parents, if they so choose to send their students to LEAP, they can. They do not have to do that, because we are still required to evaluate the students within the first 10 days of school when school begins. We still have to have an evaluation process and analyze whether there are any learning loss and things like that, and what will be kind of ground zero for us to start with our students.
Okay, thank you very much. And if you don't mind, you've addressed this very nicely, but for one more time, I had some parents reach out, and they said that they're concerned with, the recommended calendar D and the fact that we're not having so many breaks for students or teachers. Could you just address that one more time for the public, please?
Yeah, as I stated in my I guess opening regarding this, we know that there's no perfect calendar, and so we put this calendar in place for the purpose of trying not to veer too far away from the calendar that we had already had in place. And so this gives us an opportunity to retain 3 days at Thanksgiving. It gives us an opportunity, I believe, to have 8 days at Christmas. And it also gives us the opportunity not to push the start of the school year too far back into June. We don't know what the start of the school year is going to be next year. And so in the end, if we push it too far back in June, but yet we have to start that third Monday in August, we may also have a shortened summer as well. So we're trying to stay as close to the original calendar as we have, so not to create any type of disruptions in the lives of our students and our families.
All right, thank you for sharing that again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other board members? Dr. Elkins?
Dr. Davis, I'm not sure if you can address this question, but it's kind of similar to one that came in through our public participation, because I've had a few new teachers to contact me. They're concerned about pay. If we push this back, will the teachers still be on the same pay schedule as before, or will we do something different with them?
It is, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dr. Molly is at another meeting, but I believe Ms. Williams is on this call, but we did have a conversation and discussion about that. And from memory serves that our teachers will still get their pay as regularly scheduled on the 15th of August. So it will not impact. It's actually more disruptive to switch to pay day for the number of employees that we have instead of working with what we already have in place.
Absolutely. Is there any way possible that you guys can probably send something out to those new teachers? Because mainly those have been the ones that had that fear. I think the veteran teachers were probably on point with that. But is there any way that you guys can contact the new teachers? Because I received 8 contacts from new teachers, and of course I didn't have the answer to that, just to kind of ease their mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins. Other board members? All right, hearing none. Mr. Manning is, at least his video is off, but we will go ahead and, thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor, please register, or, well, if you're in favor, please register, and if you don't have the capability, please give your hand vote for aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mrs. Agostini. And this is to approve the recommended revised calendar D. All right, any opposed that don't have the capability? All right,
The vote is 7-0.
very good, thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Davis, and the administration, and thank you, board members. And at this time, we've reached item 5.1. And I don't see any opposition, so we will adjourn this special call board meeting. Thank you all very much. And I wish you all well, and please stay safe. Thank you.
Good one.